In this video, I'm going to go through one of the most important tools that you will ever use if you are selling on Amazon, and that is Keepa. Keepa is a robust data analysis and pricing tool that allows you to see the entire pricing history of how has a product been selling throughout the last 365 days of the year. It will show you in detail the peaks and lows, the seasonality, the gaps in between sales, and I'm going to explain to you how you can use Keepa to your benefit as a seller to correctly analyze. More importantly, I'm going to show you how Keepa can help you detect red flags, products, to make wise purchasing decisions for your Amazon business. Because we all know that the smarter the buyer you are, the better the products you will get, the faster they will sell, and the more net profit you will make. And signals that will tell you to stay clear and away and run as fast as you can away from the product to not buy it. If you don't have Keepa already, you can easily go to keepa.com and download it. It's about $20 per month, so it's definitely not expensive and a great investment in your business. Once you have Keepa, what you're going to want to do is install the Keepa Chrome extension on Google Chrome. And once you have it installed, it's going to look like this. On every product page, on every listing that you visit on Amazon, it's going to show you this graph. And you can choose where on the page you want the graph. I personally choose to have it right under the product image and description. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to properly analyze products, I want to go through all the settings on Keepa. Basically, the settings is when you click on each one of these. For example, I'm clicking on the first one, sales rank. And as you can see, if I click it one time, all the sales rank curves and chart will disappear. And if I click it again, it will reappear. The sales rank, as you probably know, is each listing and product is assigned a specific sales rank on its own category. The lower the sales rank, the better and faster that product sells. This pink one right here is the buy box. So if I click it out, you see the pink chart disappears. And if I click it back in, it reappears. This other one is a new third-party FBA chart. And if I click it out, it disappears. If I click it back in, it reappears. Then you can also put the new third-party FBM and a few other settings. But because I only focus on FBA, I only focus on new products, and I also like to check out the sales rank for every product. Those are the very few charts that I like showing up on my Keepa chart. Another important thing right here is Keepa allows you to see the time frame that you want to see. For example, if you want to see only sales for that day, you click on day, week, month, 3 month, year, and all the entire history, which in this case, it will be over 1,000 days. I personally like to keep this one entire year. Some products will not have an entire year because they don't have that much sales history, but most products will. Now you will see that you have two graphs. This one right here shows you the buy box and the pricing history for that product. And this one right here shows you the seller chart. This is how many sellers are currently selling on the listing. And you can also mouse over. So if you put your mouse over the chart or the line, you can see how throughout time the amount of sellers increase or decrease. So in this case, we see that up until February 20th, the seller count remained steady around 5, 6, 7, and then something happened, maybe a clearance or a good deal. A bunch of sellers bought this product and the seller count went from 7 to 21. And you can quickly see how right here the curve skyrockets. The pricing, however, remains pretty steady. it remains pretty steady at around 96, 97. That's where the buy box is. Just as a reminder, the buy box is pink. And if there is no buy box in case of suppressed listings, you will look at this one, at the orange, which is the price of new third-party FBA sellers. Now, so far we've been in the price history tab, and as you can see, we have several tabs here. Let's move on to the second tab, which is track a product. So the track a product feature is exceptional on Keepa, and they will email you almost near real-time alerts when the product pricing meets your criteria. So for example, this product is currently selling at $88. Let's say I know that once it hits $40 or less, it will be profitable for me to resell. So I want to put right here $40 or less from a new FBA seller, for example, and then start tracking. And Keepa will track it for 1 entire year. Now, this is only if you are doing Amazon to Amazon reselling. And if you are, I have a separate video. You can look on my YouTube channel. I have a separate video on how to do Amazon to Amazon selling. I really don't do much at all of Amazon to Amazon, although it is a very nice opportunity if that's where your focus is. Moving on to the data. Data tab right here will allow you to see all the buyers that have had the buy box. So within the data tab, you will go to buy box statistics, which is where we are right now. And as you can see, we have a bunch of buyers, a bunch of sellers. We have a bunch of sellers. And here Keepa will tell you the amount of share, the buy box share that each seller has. So for example, Midwest store has a 25% buy box share. Bolo America has 18% buy box share. And it will also tell you the average price that they have held the buy box at. For example, Midwest store has had an average price of 91.83 cents while they were holding the 25% buy box share. If you're curious about a particular seller, you can also click right here, and in a new tab, Amazon will open the storefront for that seller, and you can see their address and different, right here, the address and different, the positive ranking and different details of that storefront if you're curious about it. Another important fact is that Keepa will tell you the last time that that seller held the buy box, which in this case, it was today, March 19th at 2 p.m. with 11 minutes. Moving forward, if you go to product details, by the way, we're still under data. If you go under product details, then you will see the amount of out of stock. OOS right here means out of stock. So the percentage of out of stock that Amazon has been in the last 90 days. So in this case, Amazon has not been on the listing at all. 100% out of stock in the last 90 days. And that's a very good sign for us sellers because we never really want to compete against Amazon. And if we do compete against Amazon, we want Amazon to be out of stock most of the time. Another important one is right here, the buy box out of stock. And in this case, it's 0%, which is also a good sign. This basically tells us that this listing has had a buy box for the last 90 days, meaning it has not had its buy box suppressed at all. It has consistently had a buy box during the last 90 days. If it did have a buy box suppressed, here you would see 2% or 10%, a number above 0%. Now let's actually dig in deeper and see if each listing is worth it or what the red flags are or not. So this Keepa chart right here tells me that the listing is good. I would actually want the buy box line, the pink line, to fluctuate a little bit more because normal listings fluctuate all the time. They are not a straight red line. When you see a straight red line, and I will show you another example, that generally means that the brand controls that listing and you should stay away. But this one is not too bad. There's a lot of competition against sellers. As we can see here in the buy box, a lot of sellers are selling that, which to me is a good sign as well. I do not want to go into a listing where there is only one seller or two sellers, because that might be a sign of a potential IP complaint. But this is a healthy listing right here. The only kind of iffy sign is right here, the amount of sellers that have skyrocketed in the last month or so, but it's still not a huge bad sign in my opinion. There's always going to be a big amount of sellers in every healthy listing worth selling on. So this is not a bad sign. So overall, I think this is a good listing. Now here's another listing. As you can see, the Keepa chart is slightly different. This part of the Keepa chart is healthy because it fluctuates. But what is going on with this Keepa chart right here? And again, that was the importance of setting up your range to see at least 1 year worth of data, because you want to see what the listing has been doing for at least 1 year worth of history. And my initial feeling is that either one seller or the brand itself is controlling this listing. So to make sure of that, I would go into data, buy box statistics, and as you can see, JVN Hair, which happens to be the brand on this listing, has been controlling the listing quite a bit. Now, it hasn't been controlling the listing to the point that is obnoxious and they will get every single sale. As you can see, over the last 90 days, they have only won 15% of the time, the buy box share, which tells me that they are okay competing with other sellers. Now you have to bear in mind that there might be periods where they dominate the buy box, as evidence here in some of the previous periods, but they seem to be running out of stock quite a bit. And in the times that they run out of stock, that means that sellers have free range to sell very fast and very well. So again, I think that this listing is okay, because even though the brand itself is on the listing, I don't believe that you would get an IP complaint from the brand, or that it would get to the point where you wouldn't get any sales at all. Moving on to a different listing, as we see, this is pretty healthy. The price is pretty consistent. Now, many sellers make the mistake of pricing their items at exactly what the buy box or the current lowest price is, which in this case is $24.69. But if you look at the recent history, the price consistency is at $21.99. It's not at $24.69. So when you are making a purchasing decision, you should really make a decision based on a $21.98 sale price, not on a $24.69 sale price. Always try to be as conservative as you can with your pricing estimates and how you're calculating your profit. Okay, here we go with another example. Every time that you see a yellow background right here, that is Amazon right here. Amazon on the listing, or has been on the listing. So as we can see right now, we don't have a yellow vertical line currently. If we go to the weekly chart, there is no yellow background in the last even month. There was one on March 6th, but not recently. But if we go to the yearly chart, we do see that Amazon has been on the listing quite a bit. So the next thing that I want to do, because I don't want to discard any good product just because I didn't do a full analysis. A lot of sellers will look at this and they will immediately discard this product because they think that Amazon is on the listing and Amazon has a huge buy box share. But in order for us to know that, we got to go into data and buy box statistics. And as we see, on the last 30 days, Amazon has only had an 8% buy box share. Now, let's look at the 90 days. It does increase to 18% buy box share from Amazon. But as you can see, Amazon is competing very well with other sellers, meaning that it's giving away the buy box or it's running out of stock as we can see if we go to the product details, Amazon is out of stock 69% of the time. That means that 31% of the time, that's when Amazon is. And the rest of the time is open range for sellers to take over and price at their price. So I think that this is a good product to go into. Amazon seems to be running out of stock quite a bit, at least over the last 90 days or so. Now, where is the price consistency here? The price consistency seems to be not at $39.88, but around $34.99. If you draw, let's say, an imaginary line all around here, you can see that the price is not here. This is a spike in price. You should calculate based on around here, $34.99. Now, what's happening with this listing? This listing, I can already tell that there's something very off with that. And why can I tell that? Because see how this line right here goes almost in a completely straight and flat line, which is crazy. A healthy, normal listing should never go like that. It should always fluctuate a little bit because it means that third-party sellers are always competing with the repricers, constantly competing literally by the second on pricing, and pricing fluctuates. But this tells me that price is steady as a rock, which probably means that either the brand or a brand protection agency, which in this case is the latter, Pattern, I know for a fact it's a brand protection agency. And let me show you what I mean. If you go to their storefront, see Pattern, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Google Pattern, and this is their website. Pattern, if I go to what we do, it's a brand protection agency right here. That's one of the main things that they do, brand protection. That means that if we attempt to go on this listing, the likelihood of getting an IP complaint is very high. So it's not worth the risk. So I would totally skip on this listing. Here's another example. Many sellers would look into this listing and they would be like, oh, okay, Amazon is not on the listing, okay? And the price is right here right now at $42.99. But what is going on really? Amazon was on the listing and there was such a difference, such a discrepancy in price. When Amazon was on the listing, it was $19.99. And now we are at over double that price. So I would not, if I were to go on this listing, I would need to be around this price, $19.99. Definitely not. You don't want to calculate your net profit based on $42.99, because what happens if you do buy your inventory based on this projection and Amazon comes back on the listing, then that's it, you're done. That would be a total loss for you. So always be very conservative with your analysis and your purchasing decisions. Same goes for this case. Look at the spike in this price. It's crazy. The price consistency here is around $28.99 or even $31.99, which is right here in September, or even right here, maybe $39.99. That would be a little bit of a push, but definitely not right here. Look, $59.93. Do not buy inventory based on you estimating to sell at $59.93, because what's going on? If a wholesaler or Amazon or another FBA seller or an FBM seller comes in and wants to be extremely competitive, and they found a way, obviously these people right here, back in the day in December, were able to find a way to buy inventory cheap enough to price at $28.99. So you don't want to be competing with those guys. So stay away from those. Here's a little bit of a different scenario. The current price right now on this new listing is right here at $172.50, which is a little bit higher. Oh no, it's around $177. So as you see, back in the day when Amazon was on the listing, this is about 6 months ago, it was priced around here. Now, there was a little bit of a spike about a month ago, and if you bought it based on this price spike, then you are done now because the pricing lower. But this would be a good 172. That would be a good price to start purchasing inventory. Not at this, at 255, but at 172, that would be a good price to sell it at. I hope this Keepa tutorial for beginners has been extremely helpful for you. I try my best in showing you all the different scenarios. The moral of the story here is that the more you do it, the more scenarios you're going to run into and the more you're going to learn. Just like I show you right now about 10 or a dozen scenarios, you will see plenty of different scenarios and you start building experience and determining what's good and what's bad in terms of buying purchases. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a good understanding of how Keepa works in order to make good buying decisions and good analysis on each of the listings that you are looking at. Make sure to try my online arbitrage leads. I do this myself. I source them myself every single morning. So if you haven't tried my online arbitrage leads, this is a great starting point for beginners, middle or advanced Amazon sellers. And I include very detailed notes on what my analysis is for each of the products that I source. So that would be a good learning stepping stone as well for you. Make sure to like the video if you like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure to check this other video that I think you're also going to like if you like this particular video. As usual, keep up the great work.